everyone, welcome back to my channel. Now in today's video, I wanted to address a question that so many of you have asked me on Instagram. Again, I'm Social Nooper on Instagram. If you don't follow me there, do check it out because I share a lot about IVF, parenting journey, parenting tips, toddlers, gestational diabetes, and everything pregnancy and parenting related. But one of the questions I get a lot there is, how did we know that we needed IVF, and how did we decide to go for it? How did we find the right clinic? So I wanted to answer some of those questions over here, just so that if you guys are in that state where you do not know whether you need IVF or not, or you're considering it, hopefully some of this information is helpful to you. So typically most of the doctors will say when you are in your TTC or trying to conceive journey, wait for a year before you seek fertility treatments. That is the standard protocol that most doctors will tell you. Try for a year, try naturally, and if things don't work out, then, go to a fertility clinic. Some have a big problem with this just because I think 1 year is way too long, and if you in your gut know there's something wrong, or you want to do preventative treatments or tests to see that you may not have a problem, I highly recommend not waiting. That's just not the way I function. And again, every individual is different and how they treat the TTC process is different. There is no right or wrong. But to me, 1 year is a very long period. And if there is something wrong, I would like to know it earlier than wait for a whole year, waste my entire year, and then kind of seek treatment. So there are certain checks that you can do early on, even before you're trying to conceive, to make sure that all your numbers, all your levels in your body, everything is in the optimum stage for you to make your TTC journey easier. So a couple of tests that I personally recommend that I did for myself. We were in the process of TTC for a couple of months. Before, I just knew that I wanted to get myself checked. Again, it's a gut feeling. Women are just very good with gut feeling, and I just had an inkling that we may need some medical advice and treatment. Just because past, I've had history of being on contraceptives, on birth control pills, and knowing my body, knowing my pain threshold and everything, it was just advisable that we did some testing to kind of see where we are. I was also nearing my mid-30s, which is an age that, in general, your levels in your body may vary and can be more difficult than it is when you are in your 20s. So I did not want to wait a year. A couple of months into TTC, we decided to go do the check. Unfortunately, gynecologists are not very, at least the one I had at that time, of course, I don't have her now, I have someone else. But she wasn't very encouraging about going for fertility treatment. She was like, try for a year, everything is normal. We will see. But again, my gut feeling said that we need to get the basic tests done. So Kaushik and I both got ourselves checked. I got my AMH and FSH level tested, which is very important for you to assess your egg quantity and quality. Even if you don't have any problems and you are in the process of thinking about having a baby, just get your AMH and FSH level checked. It's a simple blood test, but it gives you an inkling of your egg quantity and quality in your body. And if you know what the reality is and where you stand, you can kind of plan your life better. So I always tell my sister and my friends who are early in the process, just get it tested and then decide how you want to take life, right? There's no harm in doing a simple blood test. So that's something I got myself tested. And what we realized at my age, my egg quality was fine, but my egg quantity was lower. And which meant that if we were to have one baby, we don't know how much time it could take. Naturally, it was possible, but it would take longer just because the quantity is a little lower. And if we were to have a second baby, which meant that would happen after 2-3 years or 4 years, my quantity would reduce further, making it more difficult to conceive quicker. And it's a risk we did not want to take, knowing my levels, knowing my AMH levels. It was critical that we planned ahead because my age, biological clock is real. As much as you may deny it, it is very, very real. I always tell people, whether or not you have kids or not, that's completely up to you. And, there's no right or wrong, but at least know your options. It's very important to know your options. And so keeping my AMH numbers in mind, we decided to bank my embryos. We decided to go for the IVF process and bank my embryos. There were a couple other things. I got my thyroid tested, vitamin D tested, which I recommend every woman to get tested, because your vitamin D or vitamin D, however you want to pronounce it, and your thyroid levels cause a lot of things in your body, especially a woman's body. Not just pregnancy or fertility, but a lot of other mood swings, mental health, a lot of things are related to these levels. So definitely get those checked. There are a couple other tests that your doctor would recommend depending on your risk. Kaushik got his things tested, and we both got our genetic testing done to see if we had kids in the future, what the risks were. Luckily, our genetic testing was normal, so that was not an area to worry about. But just on the basis of my AMH levels, we decided to get our embryo banked just in case we wanted to have more kids in the future. And if we did not go that route, it would make it harder for us to have kids later in the future if we wanted, and we did not want to close that option at all. A lot of people can say, age is just a number, you can have babies naturally, blah, blah, blah. I think there is science, and if we can leverage it to our benefit, there's nothing wrong. Having said that, IVF is a very expensive process, and there are a lot of factors you have to consider before going for it. For us, it was an option. We had the coverage, we had insurance, so it made sense for us to opt for IVF. There were other issues as well, keeping in mind I was on birth control pills for so long. There were a couple of factors there that I had to consider, which made sense for me to opt for IVF versus trying naturally. We spoke to our doctors. Our case seemed legitimate to opt for this route. Our insurance agreed and it was covered. So keeping all of that in mind, this was the right route for us. And so the first question to all of you, did you try for 1 year? No, we did not. We knew at least a couple of months into it that we wanted to opt for the IVF process. So that was the most important factor. Once we decided, then a lot of IVF clinics have a waiting period. So if you are someone who's looking for that, make sure you book your appointments in advance, because the waiting period can be up to 3 to 4 months. I remember we started the process somewhere in November, December, and our first appointment was only late January. But once the process started, once you're in the system, once you're with a doctor, then it just goes very quickly. You have one treatment after the other, one protocol, one process after the other. It doesn't take a lot of time. So just to backtrack, the way the process works is that when you reach out to an IVF clinic, a fertility clinic, they do all the tests, everything is done. Once you have your numbers, you speak to a doctor, you have an initial consultation. Based on that, you have a plan and a treatment, and that takes a couple of months, before it can get done, depending on how many cycles you need, if you need any surgery. The way IVF clinics work is they want to expand your chances of conceiving. So they do not like to take any risk. Whatever your body requires, they will make sure you get there in the optimum levels, like whether your vitamin D is low, thyroid is low. They will make sure you're at the right level even before starting the treatment, just because they don't want to take a risk, knowing how much it takes a toll financially, physically, emotionally. So, that's what I really appreciate about my clinic, that they made sure that the foundations were set right, whether it was in terms of my nutrition level, whether it was in my health, or whatever tests I need to be done, those things were taken care of. So that's very, very important. So pretty much that's how the process was of how we figured out we wanted to opt for IVF, banking and having that optionality of having kids in the future. Considering my age and AMH level was the main factor. And then the other question is that how did we opt for the clinic? So this clinic is something I found online, and there is a website where you can check the rating, success rate of these clinics. I looked it up. The one near our house that we went to RSC, came highly recommended from friends and people we knew, and on the website, and they had a great success rate. We had our initial consultation and I loved my doctor. So I think all of that kind of worked into making the decision that we wanted this clinic. So always do your due diligence, check the distance of the hospital, rating, success rate. The care team is a huge part of your IVF journey, so make sure you're comfortable with them. That's another big factor, when deciding whether you want to opt for an IVF clinic as well. And also through the process, if you're not comfortable with it, you can always ask for a change of care team. Or if you feel the doctors or the team is not on top of it and it's not working out for you, there is no harm in always changing a clinic. For us, it's just worked out with this clinic, with the doctors, and we loved our team. So for both our pregnancy, we had the same team, same hospital, and we were very happy with it. So this was pretty much my experience with the whole IVF process. I get a lot of questions on IVF, and I'm going to try and answer them as much as I can in these bite-sized videos, which are not really bite-sized, a little long, but I think it's very critical that I give you all these information, because then you can make the right decision. And like I said, when it comes to testing, make sure both partners are tested, because a lot of factors can be dependent on the man, not just the woman. So there are a lot of criteria that need to be tested for both the genders to ensure that you have a successful IVF round. So please get both yourself tested and come up with a plan for your doctor for both of you. A lot of times during the treatment, even men have to have supplements to ensure that their levels are optimum when the whole TTC process starts. So this was my little tidbit on the IVF process. If you guys have any questions or want me to make more videos on topics, please leave it in the comment below, and I will make them, and hopefully those are helpful. And yeah, that's about it. I will see you next time in more such videos. Till then, lots of love.